Welcome to part 2 of Competency 8. In this video, we will work with proportions and measurement. Okay, for number 1, we're going to use the illustration to answer the first question. Okay, number 1, at a particular time of day, a student measured the length of a shadow with a yardstick held vertically to be 5 feet. At the same time of day, a student measured the length of the shadow of a tree to be 26 feet. To the nearest foot, what is the height of the tree? Okay, there's a lot going on here, and let's think about this. You might be tempted to say, well, we're going to use a Pythagorean theorem. Well, we're not. Okay, sure you could. Um, it would depend on how the question is, but we don't know the height of the tree. Okay. And we don't know this hypotenuse created by the tree in the shadow. Okay. So what we do have is everything for a proportion, but we need to put everything in feet. Well, yardsticks are 36 inches long, and that is 3 feet. If you don't know those terms, please go learn them because they will not be provided for you. Okay. Now, the height of the tree, that's what we really want to know. And we're going to call that X. Okay. So we can set up just a pretty quick little proportion. And obviously, you can see they have the sun here. And we know the rays of the sun are going to are going to form those shadows that we're using. Okay. All right. So what do we need for our proportion? Well, I'm going to call this the small, and I'm going to call this the large. Okay. So you can go large over small, small over large. Now, I am not in the habit of using one uh, within the triangle. It's up to you how you set these up, but do however you do it, please use consistency because if you cross information, you don't put the information in the correct place, you won't arrive at the right conclusion. Okay, so that's why I say small, large. So if I set up a portion of saying the small over the large, then I have something with, like a process that I can use. Okay, so I like to start with the height. So I'm going to say the small, that would be 3. The large, well, that's what I'm looking for. That's the tree. Then I go back to the small, and that base would be 5. Okay. And then I go back to the large, and that is 26. Okay. And if you play around with this, or you've seen these, which by this time we probably have seen several, you know where I'm going with this. Okay. So now we have something to put in our calculator, really. We can see very quickly that we have 5x equals 3 times 26, and you will divide, oops, that's a 5, both sides by the 5. Well, 5 over 5 is 1, so it's eliminated. So now we know what to do, okay? All right, and you don't even have to write all this. All of this that I sketched out really quick, you don't have to do that once you have this set up, okay? You can simply look very quickly and say, okay, I'm going to multiply these two first and then divide by that, okay? And look at what I have, right? You have everything that you need to put into a fraction, okay? So let's push our fraction button, okay? And that's 3 times the 26, arrow down, put in your 5, press enter. Okay. Now, they do in the wording by saying to the nearest foot, they're saying, hey, you're going to have an approximation, but give me the whole number. So push your toggle button and you would round up. Remember, competency 8 implies accuracy in rounding. Okay. So I know that that's going to round up to 16, and option A is the only one that's proper. You can kind of look at the other options and think about what might be too large, okay? But we don't quite have enough information on our triangles to do that. All right. It's a little bit easier to quickly pop that in the calculator. I mean, you can even look at the image and see exactly what to put in without writing a thing, to be honest with you. I could have done this without writing down one thing, but for learning purposes, I wrote them for you. Okay. All right, now let's look at number 2. If a basketball team begins their season with a record of 11 wins and 4 losses, predict how many games they will win throughout the 82 games of the season. Okay, this is also a proportion. It is the part of the games over the total games. We're talking games here. Okay, so what are we really implying here? Here, let me do a little bit better with this. All right, that's total. So the implication is let's go with what we're given first. Be careful. The part is the wins. Well, the wins are 7. Well, what is a total? This is where we start. This is the starting information. Well, this is what our start is. And we know that that is a total of 11 games. Okay? Be careful. It's a ratio, and ratios can be part to part to total. And either one of the parts, they could have asked us about losses, but in this case, they asked us about wins. So this is where we begin. Now we're going to talk about the prediction, the future. Well, that total is given of 82, and we are predicting X, the wins, right here. That's our wins, okay? So now we know what to put in the calculator. Okay, I don't have to write anything else. All right, so we put our fraction up, multiply 7 times 82. Oops. That should be a 2. I went too far. Now, arrow down. And whatever is across from our x, that's what you divide by. So we just put our 11 and we enter. And of course, we're going to have to push toggle. Okay. Now, another warning here. That's games. In this case, a loss. Let's say the rounding is implied in the question. It's the content. Okay, we're talking games. We don't say wins are fractions. We don't say it's a decimal part. And I would not round up at any time. Okay? All right, I would go with what I see and I say 52. Okay? You know, don't round up. It's just being too overconfident, let's say that. And then when you look at your options, obviously 11's not going to work, 30's not going to work. What they're trying to do for this competency is see if you know how to round your predictions and understand the question. Okay, that's part of the competency. Well, they've embedded it in this particular question. So obviously C would be rounding way too far. All right, let's go to number 3. Number 3, a family used 15/64 gallons of juice every day. If this rate of usage continues, predict how much juice in gallons the family will use in 8 days. So what do we have? We have gallons over days. This implies that we have, now be careful here. You need to go with your start. What was given? Your ratio. So what did we start with? Well, they said we have this unit rate. So that's in 1 day, and that's 15 over the 64. Well, that's going to be equal to the predicted. Okay? That's what we're going to predict. And that would be 8 days, and we don't know how many gallons. Okay, let's put this in the calculator. Now, notice the convenience. You have 1 times x. That means you will not divide. and you simply go with your multiplication, okay? But we're still going to have a fraction, okay? So we're going to have this fraction of 15 over the 64. Then you go over and say times 8. Push enter, and that gives you exactly what you need because it's convenient for us. That's what our options are. And we know that we need D, okay? All right, so let's go to number 4, all right? Go all the way up here. The distance between two particular cities is 120 kilometers or kilometers, however you want to say it. There are approximately 8 kilometers and 5 miles. Which of the following is closest to the number of miles between the cities? Okay, we can use this ratio setup, right? We are comparing what? We have our K over our M. Well, this implies. Now, what are we going to start with? Well, we need to start with the actual ratio they gave us. So we know that's 8 to the 5, 8 to 5, all right? So then we set that equal, and we know that we are looking for the miles, but we have a total of 120. Okay, so if we go across from our 8, right, we know what to divide by. Right, so let's set up our fraction, and we're going to say 5 times 120, and now divide it by the 8, right? So press enter, and we have exactly what we needed, okay? All right, so let's look at number 5. You purchased 10 and 2/5 gallons of gasoline. There are approximately 3 and 4/5 liters in 1 gallon. Which measurement is closest to the number of liters of gallons you purchased? Okay, again, you are being given a unit rate, and that's a really nice place to start with. But what is that? That is the liters over the gallons. Well, what does this give us? Okay, that will give us 3 and 3/5 over the 1. But what did you purchase? You purchased the 10 and 2/5, all right? And we need to know how many liters that is, okay? It says to the closest number of liters of gasoline, okay? So again, we have a nice convenience. We're not going to have to divide anything. But you're going to look at this and go, okay, I have a mess. I'm going to have to convert these proper fractions to improper fractions to handle it. No, you do not. We have a nice calculator that they have given us to use that is amazing. For these types of questions, they're great. Okay, so how do I get that? I need you to push second and fraction. There's your setup. Okay, I'm going to start with a 3 and 4/5. Okay, I go over, I push my multiplication. Do the same thing. Second fraction. I put in my 10 and then my 2 over the 5 and I press enter. Okay, but that is not what I need. Okay, it gives me a great fraction, but I need a decimal. Not a problem. Simply push your toggle button and you have precisely what you need. And that is option C. Okay, now, you may have been a little put off by using the scientific calculator, but the state of Texas has given you actually something great. They've kind of conceded and given you something really useful. And I love my calculator. Okay, if you don't have one, there's a lot of free ones online, but they're very inexpensive at a lot of stores, Target, Walmart, Amazon. And Amazon, you can get really cute little colors. I have mine. You should go get yours, okay? All right. Thank you guys for watching, subscribing, sharing, liking, and congratulations to those of you who told me that you've passed your test. Happy testing, everyone. Everyone, I really wish you the best.